Hey guys, it's Saf here with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Now, it's been a while since I've done an upload, but I have just got a really powerful pick for my team, EMBRYS the Anomoly. This is the mythical champion that you are going to be able to get from Chimera eventually. You might not be there yet, but I think the first round of players really that have been committed to Chimera since day one are probably getting him. So in this video, I want to do a bit of a guide on why I think this EMBRYS guy is going to be absolutely crazy, how you can build him, how I have built him, and how you can use him to great success, especially in PvP, where I think his absolute MVP area is. Before we get started, let's have a word from our sponsor for today's video. Have you ever wanted to explore dungeons and crawl through various corners and find new adventures around every corner? Well, if so, today's sponsor might just be the game for you. Thank you to Dark and Darker Mobile for sponsoring today's video. Dark and Darker has been specifically reimagined and optimized for mobile with a brand new third-person perspective view. The game combines a series of Battle Royale survival features alongside a cool dungeon crawling adventure experience, where you'll fight bosses, skeletons, and many other creatures, and collect powerful rewards along the way. Now, it is not for the faint-hearted. It is a challenging melee combat with specific classes, and it is absolutely something you want to master to get the most out of your gameplay experience. Now, there are 6 classes you can pick, ranging from wizards to clerics to rangers to rogues, and you'll want to pick the class that is best for you, and you can of course team play. Now, if you're going in there and you need support, you might absolutely want to pick the cleric, which is essential for healing your allies. But if you're like me and you absolutely like going in and crushing your opponents, then the two-handed barbarian might just be the class for you. Now, you can take them into the Goblin Caves area. That's one particular game mode, or if you want an extra challenge, you can go into the Forbidden Castle, where different dangers lurk behind every corner. Now, the game just had a major update to it as well, where you can discover new weapons and skins from bosses around all the different dungeons. There's also exciting updates in the game to combat systems, armor crafting, and many more. It's a really good time to get involved if this is the type of game you really enjoy. Now, there are 2 new items in specific that are really cool. There's a goblin costume, which you can get through the season pass, and of course a goblin cloak, which is going to be available through the golden skin exchange. There's also a pretty cool skin called the EMBRYS skin, which is going to upgrade as you progress, as you level up. The update also comes with seasonal leaderboards and various different tracking. It's a really fun game so far. Now, you can get a free bonus with a coupon code that I have for you today. That is coupon LOCKPICKEXPERT, all one word, LOCKPICKEXPERT, which is on the screen right now. That's going to give you 500 gold as a reward, but get it quick because it will only be good for about 5,000 uses. Now, the game is only available right now in the USA and Canada, and you can use the link in my description below to download right now if you really like this game and get involved. If you're outside of these territories, make sure you head over to the website. I'll put a link to the website in the description below as well to pre-register for the global launch, which is coming very soon. Make sure to check out their website to see all the details about the game. It's a really fun experience so far, and thanks so much again for Dark and Darker Mobile for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so EMBRYS the Anomoly is a mythical champion, which means we have 2 forms. What do we have with EMBRYS? We have Fetid Glaive, attacks all enemies, destroying each target's max HP by 3%. Now, what's really important about this is this isn't based on damage. This is a flat 3%. So this is extremely useful for things like Borgoth, the Scarab King. A lot of champions' abilities that can destroy max HP tend to do it based on things like destroys each target's max HP based on the amount of damage, and you don't really get the same amount of like translation. This is extremely good for Borgoth. I will show you some examples when we do a run. Also increases the duration of 1 random debuff on all enemies. This can't be resisted if it's under Necrosis. Now, if this is the first time you've heard the word Necrosis, it's probably not, because you've probably done Viper. Necrosis, the way that it works is it's essentially like a protected poison, but it gets more progressively powerful as it goes. You can see the description when you look in all these debuffs. It's a whole world of pain of text. Fundamentally, this is what you need to understand. 1 stack of Necrosis will apply when you kill an enemy. Every time that Necrosis stack activates, which is at the start of an enemy's turn, or if EMBRYS takes a turn, the enemy will take 5% maximum damage. Every time another enemy is killed, the stack increase goes up. So at most, you're looking at a sort of 20% proc, which is pretty good. It's 1/5 of a character's health. If you revive, then the stacks get reduced. So it's effectively almost like a post-kill poison. It's pretty good. It can't be removed. It's pretty solid. Now, it also has some really quirky things with Stone Skin. So if there's Stone Skin out, then once that Stone Skin expires, the Necrosis will go back on that target. It doesn't matter whether or not you place the Necrosis. If you put Stone Skin on, it will temporarily disable Necrosis. If you take that Stone Skin off, either it expires or you remove it, the Necrosis goes straight back on. So it is pretty powerful from that point of view. So that is what his passive. Now he will place it, as I said, when anyone dies. You can't resist it. You can't block it. It can only be removed by reviving dead allies. It won't work against bosses and minions, so that's kind of annoying. Like, it's kind of useless against bosses and minions. We're talking about a wave and a PvP thing. In his base form, he also will activate that Necrosis when he takes a turn, and he does get an extra turn on his A2. Void Stare. Places True Fear on all enemies for 1 turn and a 50% decreased attack. These effects can't be resisted if you're under Necrosis, and you get an extra turn. Then we have what is pretty much the big thing that a lot of people are talking about, the Unmaking. There is a lot of text here. Fundamentally, this is how it works. It switches effects, and that's a really important thing to understand because there's been a bit of confusion about whether or not this is broken, whether it's bugged. It is working as intended. When you sort of manipulate enemy debuffs, you can do it in a couple of different ways. You can either remove the buff. Removing the buff will proc things like polymorph, and it's also, you know, stopped if you have things like protection sets and all those kind of things. You can steal the buff. That's essentially a remove and place. And then you can transfer a buff or a debuff. You can then also switch, and this is the switch version. So what it basically does is it takes an increase attack and it makes it a decrease attack. This isn't programmatically coded as a placement of a debuff. And it is also not programmatically coded as a steal or removal of a buff. So it's completely polymorph immune. It doesn't impact it. It also is not subject to the Stone Skin 50-50, right? When you place a Stone Skin buff, you can see right now he's under Stone Skin here. I have a 50% chance of blocking removal or steal. That's the important thing, removal or steal. I'm not removing or stealing this buff. I'm replacing it with a True Fear, which means it's a 100% chance to remove True Fear. The only things that stop it is if you weak hit, which you can resolve with a relic, or if the enemy has chosen to use Lightning Cage, because Lightning Cage will stop a buff from being removed, stolen, or transferred. I think this transferred word means switched, because when else would you ever transfer a buff? You know, you can spread buffs. It's not the same thing. They use the word spread buffs for that. So this is the only thing that can stop it. Weak hitting, protection buffs. It can't switch a protection buff. So if you can somehow protect the Stone Skin, which only really works if you place it yourself with Arbaeus and a couple of other champions, it pretty much means that you never have to worry about Stone Skin. It is as good as Sulfurion for getting rid of a Stone Skin buff. It is pretty rock star. That's what you use it for. He also has a bunch of other things. You don't really care about this, but you do care about stealing 5% of each target's turn meter for each buff converted into a debuff, and you also decrease the target's turn meter by 20%, and it can't be resisted if there's Necrosis. So what this basically makes his base form is an incredible counter to the current PvP meta, which is heavy Stone Skin. There's a lot of Stone Skin everywhere, right? You can choose to go A2 into Stone Skin, you can choose to go A3, those are your options. Now on his alternate form, he becomes more of your kill finish damage deal. It's a bit like Carnage. Carnage uses his A3 to set up a bunch of debuffs, and then Carnage changes forms and block revives, and it's kind of like an evolved Carnage. On his basic here, Unmaker's Blade, we have a single hit. He will place an extra hit if the target has Necrosis, and it block revives. It's basically like HP-based Phenax. With Atomize, we attack all enemies. We deal double the amount of damage to enemies whose accuracy is lower. So if I have a high accuracy, then I deal double damage. Or I will ignore 50% of each enemy's defense whose accuracy is higher than my accuracy. If I have low accuracy, I ignore defense. If I have high accuracy, I have a 100% damage bonus. Now, every one of these attacks have a accuracy multiplier. Now, the way that this works, his core has a 0.28 HP multiplier. And what the accuracy does, for every 100 accuracy you have, it's 0.01 more multiplier, which means, for example, if you have 500 accuracy, it's a 0.28 plus 0.05, so it's a 0.33. Now, what this generally means, though, in the testing that I've done, it is better for you to run less accuracy. This accuracy multiplier doesn't generally give you enough damage, and you will always prefer to have the 50% ignore defense rather than dealing double damage at this point. So you almost always want to run low accuracy. That is what my findings have been. I did a stream the other night. I'll put it in the link around here, and you can go and kind of look at it in more detail. But essentially, it was working out that essentially the math made it that you would just deal more damage if the accuracy was just lower. It's just better to basically run him low accuracy. And when we look at my build here, you'll see that's exactly what I've done. Now we also have your life is forfeit. This is also particularly good. It doesn't do an attack, but it's really good. You swap HP with an enemy. So if the enemy's got full HP and you've got 1% HP, then you will get full HP and the enemy will have 1% HP. It doesn't work if it's a boss, but instead it will heal you and fully destroy your max HP. Pretty good for finite hard, anyone who does that kind of thing. But it also means it makes him a very strong solo champion. Extremely good for soloing Sand Devil. I'll be honest though, by the time you get him, you probably have a really fast Sand Devil team, and you also have the Sand Devil tournament, which means that turn attacks is really important. But it's an option if you wanted to do so. Each time this skill is used, it also just gives him ignore defense. So you got 5 of these and you get pretty much with this true damage. Now it's going to take you a long time to scale up. It's good in long fights, but in arena, you're not really going to realize that outcome. You get an extra turn though, so you can instantly change form, use this, get an instant 10% ignore defense, then smash people. Or try to block revive. It's really, really powerful as a base damage set, but it gets better because the generator passive is pretty horrible to try and fight. It's on a 5-turn cooldown for the active effect, which basically stops him from dying. The way that it works is if he was going to get a fatal hit, a bit like Freya's passive, he will basically not die. It will basically stop him, and it will put a revive on death. Okay, now if you get hit again, then you'll revive. If you gotta be careful about block revive, you can't avoid that, but it's pretty strong. Now what the reason why it's pretty strong is because of this reflect. When this champion dies, it will reflect equal to 50% of the fatal damage back to the attacker, including any surplus. That's the really important part. So if I get hit for like 100,000 damage, I'm gonna do 50,000 damage back as pure damage. It pretty much means that anyone who is a big hitter trying to kill this guy is gonna get one shot. And then I revive. So as long as they don't block revive me, I revive. I get a turn. I can then swap HP and carry on nuking as I was. We also have the Necrosis effect here still going on, which is, you know, he applies Necrosis whenever. He's a HP-based champion. He's got a HP-based aura. He's a very, very tanky, strong, good damage dealer, counter to the arena. That is his skill set. Now, the one thing to really think about is how can you set up his relics? Relics are an interesting option for him. Right now, I've got a really useless relic. I've got the axe. This is what my live arena reward was. If you got the axe from live arena, commiserations. Thank God everyone is voting for the wand. But there is 2 particular relics that I think are super interesting to use for him if you have them. The first one is, of course, Death Dealer, because the only thing that can stop you from getting rid of Stone Skin is Lightning Cage or Weak Affinity. And what Death Dealer does, and this is a really interesting way to know about this, it doesn't just give you critical hits, it means that you can never not weak hit, because it defines every attack that you do as critical, regardless. It'll never weak hit, which means that you don't necessarily need to use this on a damage dealer. You can absolutely choose to use this on a support. If you have someone like Armand's, Death Dealer would mean he never weak hits, ever. Ever, ever, ever again. He can never weak hit. He can still 3%. Can still resist, but he can never weak hit. And that's a big deal in arena right now because magic is quite dominant. Champions like Fabian would love a Death Dealer. Fabian would absolutely, like, it redefines him a little bit because the biggest problem with Fabian is weak hitting. Death Dealer stops that from happening. So that's one option. The other option, of course, is Infernal Polytope. I know these are mythical relics, but, you know, you will revive yourself, which means you reset your abilities. You can go about your time and, you know, you can use your A3, fully heal up. That's another interesting option. I also think he's particularly good as a Chrono Cube champion because what Chrono Cube does is it allows you to get an extra turn. But the big thing about Chrono Cube is it waits for you to take a turn that doesn't have a guaranteed extra turn. So for example, if I had Chrono Cube and I chose to use the Unmaking, it would give me an extra turn. When I go and then Metamorph, I won't get this extra turn because once Chrono Cube is activated, any further extra turn cannot happen. So even though this gives me an extra turn, it will disable. However, if you choose to straight swap, then you could effectively keep chaining because anything that guarantees you an extra turn will hold up Chrono Cube. So you could open Void Stare, then you can go into Metamorph, then you can change Metamorph, then you can do your life is forfeit, then you can do A2, and then Chrono Cube will activate. So after that point, you can then A1 and kill someone. Or the other alternative you've got is you can do extra turn Void State into this Unmaking, then extra turn here with the Metamorph. You will lose your turn, but at this point, you will be in your alternate form, and therefore you have the protection of your passive, so if someone tries to one-shot you, you won't die. I think Chrono Cube is one of the few instances here where it's actually super interesting to see what you can do with him. You've got so many different options because there's plenty of extra turn guarantees. It won't trigger until you've run out of extra turns. It'll hold this up, so you can absolutely do A2, Metamorph, switch form, A3, do this, then get an extra turn from Chrono Cube to kill someone. It is very, very potent. I wish I was on the test server. I would show you how it works, but I've tested this with a bunch of people. I think I spoke to Scratch about this as well. I know that's how Chrono Cube works. It will wait until no guaranteed extra turns before it activates, and then it will bypass and override every other action turn. You can't bypass that extra skip. Now, in terms of some more free-to-play options, obviously, those were all mythical options. Absolutely, you could consider something like a Cat's Gaze if you've still got them. I think there are a couple of other new ones in here, like I think Essence Quencher is not a bad option for the critical damage stats. Pretty much all of these are not great, I'll be honest. They're not great. The one that I think a lot of people would instantly highlight, you use them in PvP, is the Wand of Submission. This wand is probably by far the best relic in the game for PvP. You got Tearing, there's an S, this is like SS++. It's incredibly strong. It's like Polymorph on steroids. It only gives you, most people can get to rank 4. It's going to give you around about a 40%, about a 40% chance to reflect. But it is the most brutal experience to happen when you get a Wand of Submission activate multiple times. It stuns you, it polymorphs you, it puts True Fear. It is the one relic to rule them all in PvP right now. And that's what I would put on him if you didn't have those mythical relics. But he's got a lot of different options you can build. So let's go into the build. How have I got him right now? I haven't got him booked. I'm waiting for a moment in time to book him properly. I've gone for a very fast, low accuracy, high damage build. I've got him in lethal. I've got him in 4-piece stone skin because you never know if you can take a turn. It's good to keep him protected. Right now on his base form, he has a little bit less base HP on his base form. He's at 306 speed, 92,000 HP, and 253% crit damage. On his alternate form, you lose a bit of speed, but you gain another about 10,000 health because of his base stat increase. So at about 100,000 health here, I should really get a glyph on here just to make this 100,000. 266%. That is without a blessing. Keep in mind, a mythical blessing is worth 11,000 health, right? The first tier here is worth 11,000 health to a mythical champion, and he's HP based. So effectively, a blessing is going to give me 10% more multiplicative damage bonus here, the multiplier. It's well worth it, but you can't get the soul until you've earned the champion, right? You can only get it by summoning. It won't be in the pool until you've got the champion. So I have to wait for the next summoning event, and hopefully I'll get a soul for him. But the soul is pretty big. When you get him, I would probably go something like Lightning Cage, or I would pick up like the Intimidating Presence. You could go for like the new Kraken Roots plus Stone Cleaver build if you want as well. That's the way that I would build him. Masteries wise, I've gone straight down the offense tree and defense tree to try and get counterattack. He has got an A1 block revive. That is the build I've got him in. Right now I've got him in Axe Serpentis because I was looking for like a HP and crit damage, and I was trying to justify really using this damn thing. I've put on here like a reflect bonus because obviously he does reflect damage. A bit of bonus from accuracy, and just this like, when he revives, he doesn't die. He does self-revive. So there's lots of relic options you can do there. I really just don't have enough. I don't have enough wands, basically. Now, before I go into PvP, which is the place where I think he's most useful, I just want to highlight how good he is at dealing with like Borgoth and these champions here that like, these are normally like blockers for people, even at the higher end sometimes, because if the combination means you just don't have access to poisons, it can take forever. This guy will absolutely just break. Look how much he's already destroyed. Now, you absolutely want to build resist on him, because otherwise you'll see I'll just get perma provoked here. But look how quickly we can destroy the health, because it is doing percentage based. It's basically doing it every single time he attacks. He's basically applying a percentage. And you might be wondering, well, that's only good, but you're going to die, surely. Well, here's the value of this champion. As long as you put something to protect, you can basically change form and then just fully heal, and off you go again. And that's the advantage here. you basically can solo this boss with this guy because he will, you know, as long as you build resist, you can just break his defense, switch form, heal, and then jump back. Like I can jump back right now, and we can carry on breaking his stone until it's eventually gone, and you basically defeat it. And it's extremely quick at doing Borgoth. It's very, very good for Borgoth. I would say probably one of the newer, better champions for it. Obviously, you'll see, I'll probably die here because I'm getting provoked, right? You absolutely need to run it. But hey, look, we're about to die. Don't worry, switch form, heal up, switch back to full health, smash the boss for some damage. What a god. And you can do this in Sand Devil, right? It's the same concept in Sand Devil because in his alternate form here, even if he was to die, he would self-revive because he's got a 4-turn cooldown here, right? So his passive will revive him if he was to die. So in Sand Devil, this is extremely good because you can basically solo Sand Devil with him. Like I said, I don't know if you would at this level of gameplay because you are probably advanced enough that you've got an extremely quick or a very strong Sand Devil team, but some people may have got a very good Chimera team, which is not a very good Sand Devil team. So that's always the option available to you as well. And there we go. Pretty much soloed it, 59 turns. I think just to put it into comparison, that's how much better it is in the clan against a Poisoner. That saves you tons of times. Okay, it's not the 22 turn Siegfried's, but it is extremely good. You know, you're starting to see it already, 35 turns at breaking the boss's HP. So that was the first call out. Now, the couple of other things to note is the way that which Necrosis actually works. Now, I was testing this out. Basically, it doesn't really matter whether or not he's alive. So long as he's in the team, Necrosis will apply whether you kill someone or not. So right now, there's 3 stacks here. We'll just heal up. But you'll notice when I go to the next wave, essentially Necrosis should not be on, right? There are 5 living enemies, so therefore there is no Necrosis stacks. But even though he's dead, the Necrosis will still apply. Once we take down this extremely tanky Tire, come on, Toshiro, there we go. So we'll be on this wave. So no, absolutely 0 Necrosis if I actually take out this champion here. Then we use our Giga Power Toshiro to just take him out. Necrosis stacks. So even though he's dead, he still has value. And that's actually quite a powerful little tool to be using in Arena. Because so long as he's in the team and you can stay alive, he's going to be producing damage. And it requires the enemy to revive themselves all the time. And it will get further and further powerful. Now let's take it into live arena. This is always extremely difficult when you try to do it sort of in a live recording. I should really record these beforehand, but it's open. Let's do some live arena and let's see how it goes. Now, one thing to note is EMBRYS is pretty new. So at the moment, if you've got yourself EMBRYS, not many people are going to really understand how to use him. They've got to learn. And most people at my tier, at least in arena, learn by experience. I certainly learn by experience. I ban things that I know that I struggle to deal with. For example, Maris for me gets banned every single time. People understand that Maris is extremely powerful. They see the 6-star Maris come out and they're like, right, we're banning that straight away. It's their personal experience. Now, ironically, my arena team these days is actually totally free to play in essence. Free to play on a very extreme curve because it is using champions you can get guaranteed in the game. Carnage comes from Centranos, free champion. We got Mikage, guaranteed fusion that you can always get. Marius I normally use, mission champion. EMBRYS is now from Chimera. I often use Lamasu, that comes from Siege. It's quite ironic that essentially the arena team that I use is totally free. But there you go, that is a bit of fun. Now he's picked Marius, so obviously I've got to be careful because I have a temporal chains. This is something to note that obviously if you buff too many times, then you will drop turn meter. Or if they buff too many times, you'll drop turn meter. Like Siphi with Marius automatically means I either have to ban the Siphi or I have to ban the Marius pretty much straight out the bat. So we got double mythical, Arbaeus and Mesomol. This is going to be extremely hard to win the speed race straight out the bat. We do have double speed aura, so that's not really a big problem. Now I could go revive, I could go Fabian. Let's go a bit of Fabian here. And let's take out his... He's probably going to go first no matter what I do. And if I don't take the Marius out, I will get counterattacked, which is a bit of a problem. So let's try and basically go for a... Let's take out the Marius, because the Marius is the biggest threat. He's probably going to take the Mikage. We can use our aura for a little bit of an effect. It's not going to be great. It's going to be a bit 50-50. It really depends. Now, I am full stone skin. This is the advantage, right? The enemies... I think Mesomol can bypass stone skin, I believe. Off the top of my head. I always forget what all the mythical champions can do. But, you know, he's going to be forced into using his A3 on our mans, whatever happens. Now, the good thing is I got Supersonic. That's going to really help me get some turn meter. Hopefully, Fabian can cut in. If he A3s my Fabian, that would be really disappointing. He did not. So this gives us an opportunity. I can lock up the Mesomol. That's super useful. We got rid of all the buffs. Fabian, absolutely high rolling. Now, Mesomol is probably going to change. Oh, it didn't metamorph. There we go. Now, basically, the main reason why you use EMBRYS here, it doesn't really matter because we got rid of all the Stone Skin, which is normally what you would use him for. Fabian high rolled. Now, I've got some options. I could either stay in this form. I could instantly metamorph. I'm just going to instantly change form at this point. And we're just going to wreck face. We're going to just destroy people completely. And you'll see right away, 142,000. That's a pretty strong hit considering he has no soul, not even booked. That's how much damage you can do on one hit. He is not booked. He has pretty much the worst relic you can have in the game, which is Axe Serpentis. It really does nothing for him. And he has no soul. And he's doing that level of damage. He can do good damage. He's very, very good. Now let's try to find some more desirable opponents that I can actually showcase how his utility works. Because live arena is always very difficult because you never know what the enemy is going to do. But let's just take him into, say, this encounter here in the middle. I'm going to basically try to fight Arnorn and Fabian. We're just going to power through tag team. Tag team is really good for testing champions. I mean, that's about as useful as fun it is. Other than that, tag team is kind of like, you know, we skip over it and we move on. Okay, so we're coming into the fight. You'll instantly see there is one Stone Skin out. Now, what I normally like to do is I like to basically try to use my Mikage's A1, gets a bit of turn meter, and we get the Necrosis out straight away. Now, we're going to get whacked by this. Necrosis is now active, which is really strong, right? You'll see that every single time they take a turn, we're going to just chunk away at their health. And that's where the Stone Skin comes back. So that's the example I was giving earlier. Even though the Stone Skin was on Queen of Hearts, Necrosis is active. You can't avoid the Necrosis. It comes back. You're basically stuck with it until you revive. And now I can basically change form. And then we can basically decide if we wanted to, I could swap health. But I'm just going to literally one-shot them out. Pretty straightforward to do that. That's really not the type of team that I'm trying to play test against. Really, this is the first team. This team here is this is the team I'm putting him into. I know that Ultimate Death Knight is going to have Stone Skin. I know the Siegfried is probably going to have Stone Skin. Well, Siegfried didn't. The rest of them did. So at this point, we're kind of like, well, what can we actually do? Well, we might as well try to do some sort of maneuvering here. See what we can do. Galath is going to do his thing. We're going to get some sort of Amans. And now we've kind of got this problem of, okay, well, we've got some buffs. What can we really do? Can't really do anything here. And what he's able to do is really good because he's going to swap and get rid of that Stone Skin buff right away. We can then absolutely get rid of the passive. Necrosis is now activated. Now, the Necrosis is going to revive him. That's useful. But it's only useful to a certain extent. Because we can reset him again. We can then get an extra turn. And then we can go into an extra turn. And then we can get another extra turn. And then we can go and start killing. The amount is a bit like Gizmak. You can take a lot of extra turns. And you would not believe how many you can do. Now, he's going to revive, restore all those again. This is quite an annoying team to fight. They've got lots and lots and lots of buffs. And it can be quite annoying. Now, in these long, drawn-out fights, of course, you will end up using your A3 a few times, and that's where this starts to really get useful, because you're going to get more and more ignore defense, you're going to get even more stronger, and now you can start doing things like block revive. And this double hit is really brutal when you start getting these Necrosis. It can quickly get out of control. If you've ever fought Viper in Chimera, you know exactly how it feels when this Necrosis starts rolling, and pretty much there's nothing he can really do to stop it at this point. And that's the type of team that I think he's very good into. These teams that basically want to set up lots of Stone Skin, you can just walk in and just take it away. Let's see if we can find one more fight where I think it would be quite annoying to fight into. Some of these teams are not the highest. I'm only in gold 1 here, so obviously a lot of these teams are not going to be like pinnacle, absolute peak PvP. But we can see that this one here is absolutely going to have tremendous amounts of Stone Skin. And you'd be like, well, it's not a major team because there's no like mythicals or anything, but it's still annoying. It's going to be 4 Stone Skin. For sure it's going to be 4 Stone Skin. And in this situation here, you'd be like, okay, well, how do I get around this? Well, this is where you can do it. So this is a great example. Now, Lightning Cage will protect 2 of these Stone Skins. That's the thing to note. So we'll be able to take 2 of them away, the 2 middle ones, but the Lightning Cage is going to stop the Stone Skins. That's always something to keep in mind. That there's only so much you can do. I think we will end up start seeing a bit of a lightning cage meta at the moment, because it is the one thing that can stop him from doing what he wants to do. And there is really no answer to the lightning cage, I would say, because it is the one thing that's going to protect those buffs all the time. You either have to be able to like remove other buffs and hope they run a Siphi, or you're just going to have to endure that pain. Now let's take on this final mythical team here. Let's see what happens. We'll probably get absolutely wrecked by the Volcanos in the last team, because Volcanos is pretty strong if you don't run Sulfurion into him, or someone like Ashnar. Both of them counter. We're only going to have one stone skin here. Okay, well, let's just take out one of the champions straight away. Let's put out some fears. And then we can basically put some fear, get an extra turn. And we can take away Galath's stone skin, instantly block and get rid of the stone skin. Now we're back over here. We can basically spread all those debuffs, extend the duration. And Carnage with him is pretty strong. It's pretty strong. Again, what we can do here, if we... Keep in mind, you can't get rid of Protected. So... realistically, I can probably get rid of a couple of things and then we're good to go. But his A1 damage is not too bad either. It's not as good as his A3, but it's still pretty solid. And that is kind of like the main way I would use EMBRYS right now. I think he's extremely strong in the current meta. Meta right now is Stone Skin. And you can guarantee pretty much, as long as you don't weak hit and you don't have to deal with Lightning Cage, that you will always, it's a 100% chance. I've never seen it fail outside of those two situations. It doesn't 3%. It is simply, it only is blocked by the situation where they have Lightning Cage or they have, or you weak hit. That's pretty much it. That is the grand scheme of all situations. That is EMBRYS the Anomaly. Anywhere else that I think he can play, I think he is pretty good in some bosses. Certainly against things like Dark Phase, not bad. His A3 does do a bit of Terminator Disruption. Very, very good into Borgoth. I wouldn't necessarily say he's a great dungeon runner. He can solo Sand Devil. His real MVP status is being in arena, being able to rip off this stone skin. I think he's extremely good. I think he's worth all the pain and endurance you have to do to get him through Chimera. He's definitely worth getting. I'm hoping I can get a Battle Relic on him soon. And now I'm kind of on the hunt for a soul, because the biggest problem in Raid Shadow Legends in 2025 is the champions are just not there unless they've got a soul. This Toshiro I thought was going to be amazing. He cannot even dent my Marius in Chimera right now. He's about half the damage of anything that I can do with my Chimera, and it's not that much trial difference either. So until I get him up to a 4 or 5-star soul, he's kind of just chilling, waiting his turn. And EMBRYS will be the same. Remembering that mythical champions get tremendous amounts of stats, right? They get 3. This guy's going to get 11,500 health, plus another 1,000. And I think it's like, what, 42% or 45% crit damage. He's already one-shotting some pretty reasonably tanky champions. This is going to go up a lot. Now, this is some of my, if not my best HP-based gear, but just put that in context that he's still got a lot of growth to go. So I'm really excited to get him more powerful. I'm really excited to take him into arena. I think he will force people to move towards a Lightning Cage meta pretty quickly. To protect the Stone Skins, the answer is Lightning Cage. It's the safest bet. You can't really trust Affinity with Death Dealer. Death Dealer is going to force you that way as well, because people might run the Death Dealer over Wand, and you will eventually get this. Okay, it might take a while. You've got to run a lot of live arena. It might take you 4 months, but eventually some people will get enough Death Dealers that this becomes a bit of a meta pick as well. I'm hoping we get more opportunities to get relics in the future. Let me know in the comments below, guys. What do you think of EMBRYS? I'm sure I'm not the first. I'm probably one of the last videos that you've seen on EMBRYS so far. I think he's meta defining. I think he's that good. But let me know in the comments below. Are you now chasing Chimera after we've watched him perform? Let me know in the comments below, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.